As many of you are probably aware, after a Trump supporter was killed walking down the street in Portland, many of these far leftists from Black Lives Matter and Antifa were cheering for this, saying things like, "I am not sad that an effing fascist died tonight." And then many people in the crowd start cheering, celebrating the death of this man who was apparently walking the other direction when a far leftist said, "We got a couple right here." According to a witness, the friend of the victim, they turned around and it was too late. But they're not just celebrating, they're fundraising. Antifa BLM fundraising off of Saturday Night Murder, collecting for bulletproof vests and Kevlar helmets. This is scary. When asked, the friend of the victim basically said, we need to get a handle on things because it's going to escalate. And he's right. And I've been saying it for quite some time. Antifa right now, they're fundraising for bulletproof vests and Kevlar helmets because they're worried that there will be some kind of retaliation. This is why it's very important to stress no one should go out and retaliate. Law enforcement should take care of all of this. And if they don't, it's still better to hold back and wait. We got an election coming up. Right now, the right has been, for the most part, lied about and attacked, smeared in the media. And after one rally with Trump supporters driving through their cars, Joe Biden and the Democrats are screeching about militias raiding cities, and I've had enough. I don't think Americans are stupid enough to believe the line they're feeding them, that it's Trump's fault. For 3 months, Black Lives Matter has been rioting. But last night, it's not just about them fundraising. There's more coming. Police investigate possible shot fired at LA Trump caravan. You see, Trump supporters drove through Los Angeles, and it's reported that someone fired around at these Trump supporters. The police then started raiding buildings, and people were apparently throwing things from their windows at these cars. So escalation does seem to be, I hate to say it because I say it all the time, but we're going to see more escalation. That's why it's imperative that conservatives, moderates, Trump supporters, let law enforcement handle this. But here's what I want to focus on. We know that they were cheering, but they're fundraising off of this. They're trying to make money off of this to prepare for escalation. Red State reports. It is reported by various observers that Antifa BLM on Sunday night are continuing to celebrate the murder Saturday night of Aaron Danielson, who was shot in the middle of a Portland street and apparently identified as a Trumper because of the Patriot prayer hat he was wearing. Andy No tweeted, Antifa are gathered at Laurelhurst Park in Southeast Portland and are still thrilled over the deadly shooting yesterday. They baselessly called the victim a Nazi. Some are dancing in the park. On social media, they are soliciting mass donations for more riot gear. But not only are they celebrating, they're also trading on their celebrity, Step Aside Kenosha, to raise money for needed supplies and equipment. On top of their wish list, ballistic vests and Kevlar helmets. Some of the messages express concern that rioters might now be targeted for retaliation in response to the murder of Danielson. You think, they say? Andy No tweets, in response to the killing of the Trump supporter in downtown Portland, Antifa accounts are soliciting for donations to buy more riot gear. They just received a shipment of bulletproof vests and want more. They crowdfund on Cash App and Venmo. No joke. PDX Shield Mom says, please boost. Right-wing terrorists are really mad that we are coming together as a community to protect each other with ballistic gear. If you would like to donate to support getting more ballistic gear on the streets, please DM me. Right-wing terrorists, they say, are mad that they're fundraising for gear. Actually, I would say many people are mad. And it's starting to reflect in the betting odds and in the polls benefiting Donald Trump. They're mad that some guy was walking down the street and got shot in the chest. Here's another particularly pathetic display. The woman claims she was one of 2 medics who rushed to Danielson in the moments after he was shot and attempted to render first aid. She claims that when Portland police arrived at the scene just moments later, they pushed her and the other medic away and would not allow them to treat Danielson. She claims that Danielson was still alive when she was pushed away and that he died during the period he was not being treated while waiting for paramedics in an ambulance. She said, I was one of 2 medics on scene when the man who died last night was shot. I barely had time to begin an examination before the cops pushed and batoned me off his body. That man was alive when I left, and it will haunt me for the rest of my life that they screamed about having a real medic and none was on scene, and that man not but 20 minutes later was confirmed dead. When I close my eyes, I can only see his face and the murderous rage in the eyes of a cop abusing me to force me away from helping him as best I could. How do the cops know that she wasn't the person who killed him? Why should the cops allow a random person with duct tape on their arm to treat someone who was just shot? And in fact, many of these cops probably have some basic first aid training as well. She said, thanks for everyone for reaching out. Truthfully, I have no clue, but I'll start with needing a bulletproof vest, GSW kits. My Venmo is, I'm not going to say her Venmo, if anybody wants to slide their local protest medic some funds. One of the videos of the aftermath of the shooting does show the first Portland police officers to arrive at the scene move two people who appear to be treating Danielson away from his body. But the officers have no way of knowing who the people are and whether they have any actual medical training. For all the officers know, the persons attending to a gunshot victim might be doing more harm than good, or they might be the people who killed him. Through her alligator tears, she manages to give out her Venmo information and asks for donations so she can buy a ballistic vest. As of 11:45 p.m. on Sunday night, Portland time, that Twitter account no longer exists. I wonder how much money she raised. Perhaps she got banned for raising money in this way. But let's talk about what happened in LA. They're fundraising, they're celebrating, and they are doing more. It's not the Trump supporters who have been going out for months, smashing and destroying. In fact, it's not the Trump supporters who have been going out for years and doing this. Police searched apartment buildings for 3 men following reports that someone may have fired a shot at a car caravan of supporters of President Donald Trump that rolled through LA on Sunday, authorities said. Police responded to the sprawling complex shortly before noon after receiving reports that someone was throwing bottles and other items at vehicles on Ventura Boulevard, said LAPD officer Drake Madison. A short time later, a caller reported that a man had brandished a gun and fired at least once at passing cars. No injuries were reported. One motorist reported a flat tire, Madison said. Investigators didn't immediately confirm whether a gun was fired. Quote, now we've got 3 people holed up in the location and SWAT is trying to find them, Madison said. A police helicopter circled overhead and authorities used a loudspeaker to tell residents to stay indoors, said Chantel Bonnet, who lives in a townhouse at the complex in the Woodland Hills neighborhood. I heard feet running in behind my building and I called 911. They told me to stay inside and keep the door locked, said Bonnet, who was home with her kids, ages 10 and 12. It was pretty scary. Dozens of cars and trucks, many with Trump banners, honked and shouted their support of the president as the caravan rolled through the San Fernando Valley. The event was mostly peaceful, Madison said. You see, here's the important part. Mostly peaceful. When the rioters come out for the left and destroy things, they say mostly peaceful. When Trump supporters drive down the street and get attacked by the far left and extremists, they still say mostly peaceful, as if to insinuate it was the Trump supporters that were committing the acts of violence by driving in their vehicles. It's the semantic game they play. They say, the rally came the morning after a man was fatally shot in Oregon. Demonstrators have taken to the streets in communities across California and the nation since the police shooting of Jacob Blake in Kenosha, Wisconsin. We know what happened with Blake. Officials bracing for more demonstrations Sunday evening in Sacramento, California, said public transportation would be halted in some downtown areas. With another night of protests scheduled and the large number of people expected to be walking on or near the light rail tracks in key quarters, SAC-RT will be temporarily suspending light rail and bus service. This is the weekend. We tend to see skirmishes and some low-tier violence throughout the week. Saturday and Sunday tend to be the worst. Now we have a man dead. When the Trump supporters drove in LA, they got shot at as well. These far leftists are fundraising for more gear. We need the police to be empowered to shut this down. Now, in LA, they're doing it. Okay, SWAT is searching this building, or they were. I don't know what the update is. This is the latest story. And there were several people holed up in this building and helicopters circling overhead. Sounds like they're pulling out the stops, trying to shut this down. I can respect that. They go on to say 6 people were arrested and a police officer was injured late Saturday night in Oakland, California, after a mostly peaceful demonstration. You know what, man? It is not. Stop saying it. The media are empowering this by not calling it what it is. Violent incidents, violent riots, call it whatever, just call it what it is. Mostly peaceful demonstration for racial justice turned violent. Police said some gas and smoke was used to force demonstrators away after people hurled rocks and bottles. It's no longer a protest when they're throwing objects at people. They say in San Jose, a crowd spray painted graffiti Saturday, on Mayor Sam Liccardo's home. His neighbors quickly banded together to clean up the mayor's home. Liccardo said in a statement, the vandalism does not detract from his support of the Black Lives Matter movement. These people are incorrigible. You're getting targeted by extremists. They're burning things down. They're killing people. And this is the feckless political play we get. These politicians, these Democrats, Joe Biden himself had Joe Biden's staff members were funding the bail fund to get these people out of jail. And even after they're targeted, they say, we still support them. That's called bootlicking. I think it's hilarious when I mention you've got people burning down buildings and I say the police should come in and shut it down. They say, keep licking that boot, Tim. The cops are shutting down people, killing other people. That's not bootlicking. You know what it is? These politicians and these businesses bending the knee to Black Lives Matter after they get beaten. They're being whipped in the face and then they say, thank you, sir, may I have another? Grow a spine and stand up. If not, then people who live here need to vote these people out. Many of these same neighbors' homes bear Black Lives Matter signs, and they represent the true spirit of the movement and of our San Jose community. They contrast sharply with the roughly 100 so-called protesters who stood by silently or even cheered as a flag was burned. It's literally the march. There's no other march. It's this. You talk about your movement. The people who are going around destroying things are the movement, not you. Stop playing silly games. Check this out. Josh Kaplan says, Fox 6, Kenosha police arrested 175 people from 44 different cities since unrest began a week ago. That's right. They come from all over. They are your movement. They fly the flag, they spray paint the message, and they're literally screaming Black Lives Matter. And they go, well, the real movement are the people minding their own business, not protesting, doing nothing but putting up little signs in their windows. Why should I believe that? Why am I supposed to believe that someone who is not active, is not engaged, is the actual movement? No, I'm sorry. The people doing things, those are the people that I'm going to say are the movement. The ones flying the flags and demanding of people. The ones calling for abolishing the police and cheering as everything gets burned down and destroyed around them. Because, I mean, the politicians have been supporting these street level protests the whole time. And perhaps, like I said earlier, it's because the media kept saying peaceful protests. So the Democrats were like, great, peaceful protests are great. And what was really happening was riots and destruction. Well, the Oregon governor plans to end protest violence and protect free speech. So they say. Let's see what their plan is. Oregon Governor Kate Brown unveiled a plan that she says will end violence and arson in Portland. Hold on, I'm sorry. I have a plan to end the arson in Portland. Oh, do you? You have an arson problem, and you didn't solve it in the past 3 months. Wow. You know what? I can confidently say and proudly, my town doesn't have an arson problem. It needs a plan to be solved. Most of the time when there's arson, the police and fire investigators come out and they track down the person who did it and they arrest them. Have you tried that, Governor Kate Brown? Well, it's end violence and arson in Portland. I can't believe they have an arson problem. Who'd want to live there? While also protecting the free speech of the protesters. The governor unveiled the so-called unified law enforcement plan on Sunday following a deadly shooting. Quote, we all must come together, elected officials, community leaders, all of us, to stop the cycle of violence. But this is only the first step. Real change will come from the hard work to achieve racial justice, and it starts with all of us listening to each other and working together. These people are awful. Vote them out. Get rid of them. You know what, man? This is not policy, okay? It is not a left or right position to be like, I support the police or I don't. That's insane. How has it come to the point where it's a conservative opinion to be like, let's have police? What do we do with it? What, you just have people romping around burning down buildings? If you really want to argue that the left today, that I am being right wing by saying I, for one, don't like people being murdered in the street, be it by cop or rioter, that's right wing. I'm not kidding. That is because the left ignores all the dead from their own event. When was the last time you saw a protest for David Dorn? Oh, it was a conservative group marching peacefully. You know what this is? The Democrats embracing extremists because they're scared to say no, because they're on Twitter too much, and they think Twitter opinion reflects the public. And that's why they're starting to freak out now and blame Trump for everything. It's turned on them. Here's what they go on to say. Governor Brown said she'll be asking sheriff's deputies from both Clackamas and Washington County, as well as officers from Gresham, to support Portland police in keeping the peace. Brown said Oregon State Police will continue to offer personnel, resources, and body cameras to the Portland Police Bureau. She also said the U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI will commit additional resources to the plan. The governor is convening a community forum on racial justice and police reform, which will include black protest organizers and community leaders, as well as Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler. Mayor Ted Wheeler needs to be recalled and just gotten rid of. The left agrees, the right agrees, and that's all that matters. Everybody agrees. Get rid of the guy. Kate Brown launches her plan. She says, 1. Multnomah County DA will prosecute serious criminal offenses, including arson and physical violence. Oh, will they? Yeah, right. Multnomah County Sheriff's Office will work with the system partners to hold individuals booked for violent behavior and to ensure there is adequate jail space. You know what's funny? My town doesn't need a plan that basically says enforce the law. My town doesn't need to remind the DA to prosecute crime. Apparently, Oregon has fallen into such chaotic disrepair that she actually had to put together a plan where she's like, okay, here's my idea. Cops, arrest people who break the law. DA, prosecute people who break the law. That's what they're supposed to do. It's literally the bare minimum. You've come out and said, I have a plan to stop the violence. It's called bare minimum. Wow. You know what this is? They wait till it gets so bad and so violent that they can do the bare minimum, and it does sound like they're doing something. I, for one, am going to have police arrest criminals. The police are supposed to arrest criminals. You're not doing anything. You're literally doing nothing. 3. As done previously, Oregon State Police will detail personnel and resources to Portland to free up. Look at this. It's just literally like bare minimum. The governor is asking Clackamas and Washington County Sheriff offices to support the Portland Police Bureau with personnel and resources. All right, that's something. I'll give her that one. Oregon State Police have offered over 24 body cameras. The U.S. Attorney and the Federal Bureau of Investigation will commit additional resources for investigation. There we go. There it is. Okay. All right. I'll back that one up. All right. I was a little over the top, I guess. Respect. And I sincerely mean it. Bringing in the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office to actually start going after some of these, interstate criminals. I got respect for that. Too many of these jurisdictions have said no to Trump's assistance. It's not exactly what I was hoping for, where you can actually have bolstered law enforcement, but it's actually not bad. It's not bad. First of all, the first few points are still laughable, I think, to be fair. We're going to have the cops do their job and the DA will prosecute. Okay, dude, calm down. Calm yourself. Bring in the feds and state police. It's actually a good plan. It is. And I got to be fair with that. I'm glad to see that the governor is finally going to bring in the feds on this one. But more importantly, I think we actually have a real solution. I don't think it would be a good idea if Trump did deploy PACT throughout the streets. Like FPS, something to bolster law enforcement, I guess. But, let me go back. Let me walk back a little bit what I was just saying and just put it this way. There is a fear of escalation. They do want to target Trump and the federal government. Having the state police come out, but having the FBI handle the desk work and the investigations and the prosecution, I think, actually a good plan. So I respect that. At first, my assumption was just based off the first 3 points, because Oregon should have been doing much more than they've been doing. They're not even doing the minimum. The reason the state police left in the first place was because the DA wouldn't prosecute people. I'll still be very critical in saying it's laughable that they're only now just deciding to enforce the law. But I'll tell you this. There's one thing they've done so far, and it's number 6. Bringing in the U.S. Attorney and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Okay. Okay. All right. We'll see how this plays out, and I can respect that. She says the right-wing group Patriot... here we go. The right-wing group Patriot Prayer and self-proclaimed militia members drove into downtown Portland last night armed and looking for a fight. Every Oregonian has the right to freely express their views without fear of deadly violence. Wow. Nah. I can respect her bringing in the feds, but this is one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. I will not allow Patriot Prayer and armed white supremacists to what? Legally walk down the street and then be executed. Yep. The mayor has been blaming Trump for this. The city is, look, man, I'm sorry. I see a lot of people, were criticizing me over my predictions earlier this year. And a lot of you are eating your hats. Egg on your face. I remember when I said that COVID would result in food shortages being stripped from shelves and supply chain disruption. Yeah, we're here. My friends have been sending me photos from a bunch of different stores, gun stores, professional equipment stores. Everything's gone. I have friends who can't even buy bicycles. The supply chain is completely disrupted. And I made more predictions. I said civil war, but listen, if you can't wave a Trump flag and just drive around in your car without being accused of being the bad guy, the tribalism has become so extreme. I don't see negotiating. I don't see conversation happening anymore. Like, you're not going to convince anybody. You can't go to these people and say people have a First Amendment right. They're going to say, I don't care. My tribe or else. I don't think the right is doing that. I think there are some right-wing people. One thing I noticed is that a lot of people are saying the shooter in Oregon was illegally carrying a weapon. Okay, well, Kyle Rittenhouse was also charged with illegally carrying a weapon. I'm not here to play these games. I'll tell you this. Kyle Rittenhouse fled. He was running from the violence, and they attacked him and tried to snatch the gun from him, and he defended himself. Someone else fired first. The guy in Portland targeted the Trump supporter, the far leftist targeted the Trump supporter, saying, we got him right here, pull it out. And when the Trump supporters turned around, he shot him in the chest. It's a very different circumstance. But I am seeing people point out the gun thing, and I'm like, there are certainly conservatives who play tribal politics. But I believe for the most part, the right is not doing what the left is doing in terms of tribalism. The right will concede when they're wrong. And that is why disaffected liberals, politically homeless, and moderate types are joining the ranks of Trump supporters and saying they're going to vote Trump. Many people who are like, I don't like the guy all that much, but he's the only choice, right? It's because Trump supporters aren't the ones starting the violence, aren't the ones going out seeking retaliation. And they are the ones willing to concede fault on some issues. Not all of them, but enough. So I'll tell you this, it needs to stop. And I believe it's coming from the left. I can't believe she would say that. But it's no surprise. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. over at youtube.com/Timcast. It is a different channel, and I will see you all then.